Good afternoon to you, alumni and friends. I'm Alexa Dembski, the Assistant Director of Alumni Outreach Programs and a proud 2013 graduate of TU. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on real estate in a time of social distancing. Joining me today from the TU Alumni Relations team to help with this presentation is Steve Rosenfeld, Director of Alumni Communication and Recognition. Before we begin the presentation, I want to share a few housekeeping notes. Attendees will remain muted throughout this webinar. If you have any questions, please use the chat function in your window and direct your questions to all participants. We will be monitoring the questions throughout the session, and our presenter will answer questions both throughout and at the end of the presentation. Please note the session will be recorded and shared with attendees in the coming weeks. I'd now like to introduce our presenter, Gersha Porter. Gersha received her Master's of Science in Human Resource Development from TU in 1991. She's also a proud member of the Towson Black Alumni Alliance. As an associate broker at Porter Premier Homes of Cummings & Company, Gersha provides guidance for buyers and sellers by giving them key strategies to unlock resources to buy their dream home or sell their current property. Gersha leverages her almost 2 decades in the Baltimore real estate market as a CEO of Porter Premier Homes, helping buyers and sellers achieve their goals. She's a skilled negotiator, pricing strategist, communicator, marketer, mentor, and coach. Thank you, Gersha, for leading today's presentation.
Thank you, Alexis, and thank you, Stephen, for inviting me. Today, I'm excited to come before the Towson University alumni community to talk about real estate in a time of social distancing. So, as Alexis mentioned, I'm going to take a couple of breaks throughout the presentation to answer any questions that might be in the chat. And I'll also leave some time at the end to answer questions as well. So once again, welcome, welcome. Today we're going to talk about what's happening in Maryland real estate, what's in store for buyers, eliminating the fears for sellers, and how if you would like some advice, you can reach out to me with our special COVID call, a 30-minute call to discuss with you your buying or selling plans and how we might be able to help you. Now, a little bit more about me. This is my family. So we are TU proud. 2 of the individuals on the picture are Towson alums. So yes, I received my master's in human resources in 1991 from Towson University. And my husband received his undergraduate degree in 1987 from Towson University. And today we have a rising senior, top right, my son, who is going to be entering his last year at Towson University. So we are TU together in many different ways. So thank you so much once again for giving me the opportunity to give back to the university that gave so much to me while I was there. So in terms of what's going on in Maryland, did you know that today there is about 2 months of inventory on the market when compared to 2019, there was 4 months of inventory on the market. Let me let you know more about what that shocking statistic means to both buyers and sellers. On the chart before you, and I'm going to make sure I reference the chart as well as speak to it since some folks aren't online right now. But this information is provided by Maryland Realtors, which is a state association that most realtors belong to, and they provide this amazing information to us on a monthly basis. So this particular statistic, this was gathered in March. We just finished May, so the data continues to be updated as we get that information. But what you will see is that real estate, there are more homes to be sold, about 2.5% more than a year ago. The average price has increased by about 9% over last year. And the median price of homes in the Maryland area has also increased by about 9% compared to 2019. What's shocking to some individuals who are not in the real estate market right now is inventory. So active inventory as well as months of inventory. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what that means for both buyers and sellers with respect to the inventory and how all of this ties into buying and selling during social distancing. So it is a seller's market. You may have heard about that. What does that mean? Our inventory is low. There are more buyers than homes to sell them. So specifically in March of 2020, the months of inventory was 2. And what does that mean? It means that it would take about 2 months to sell all the homes that are on the market. That was in 2020. A year ago, it took about 4 months to sell all the homes that were on the market. So that is some really important information to understand whether you're a buyer or a seller, is what is going on in today's real estate market. So it's a seller's market because sellers have more buyers to select from.
And Gersha, we did have a question come in about was the data before COVID-19.
What was the question again? Could you repeat that, please?
Was the data provided before COVID-19?
Well, this data was March of 2019 and March of 2020. So yes, the data were homes that were on the market in March. So COVID was early March. And so I'm going to be sharing some more information specifically about what the market looked like in a few of our jurisdictions in May, okay, because we're in June now. So I'm going to show you some May data, but what you're seeing now was during the beginning of COVID, because we came through the majority of our COVID changes in March, April, and May. So now things are kind of easing up. So yes, this information was the data that was going on throughout the month of March of 2020. Yep, great question, great question. So May statistics, May of 2020. And I work in the primarily Baltimore City, Baltimore County neighborhoods. I also sell in Hartford, Howard County, Carroll County. So the information I'm going to focus on today will reflect mostly when we come to statistics about Baltimore City and Baltimore County. The rest of the information is going to apply for Maryland, because I think I saw a question earlier about Pennsylvania real estate. And the brokers that I work for, I am a Maryland licensed realtor. I am able to connect you with a Pennsylvania realtor if you would like to understand more about what's going on in the market in PA. So definitely drop us a line and we can connect you with a PA licensed, a Pennsylvania licensed realtor. So the statistics in May for Baltimore City, and this is May of 2020, there are about 1,000 homes on the market. The average sales price was around $210,000. It took about 52 days to get a contract. So when you see days on market, that tells you that from the moment the property hit the market until they received a contract, that's what we call days on market. And it gives you a feeling as a seller, well, how long might it take for my home to receive a contract to purchase? And so the average days on market in Baltimore City was around 50. Now, as we continue to talk about data, communities have different days on market, different jurisdictions. So real estate is very local, and we can help you understand what's going on in your neighborhood or your community. In terms of homes sold in Baltimore City, there are about 600 that sold in the month of May. And then the average sold price, or the average price of properties that sold was $175,000. So that was average. It's important to look at this information as you consider, if you're a buyer or a seller, exactly what's going on in the market. So that's for Baltimore City. In Baltimore County, there were approximately 1,200 homes on the market in the month of May. So as you can see, real estate has been moving forward despite COVID-19. Lots of transactions are occurring. Sellers are marketing their homes and buyers are buying. The average list price in Baltimore County in May was around $290. Average days on market from active to receiving a contract was about a month. And the homes that sold were around 700. So as you can see, if you have a chance to look at the slide, the average sale price in Baltimore County in the month of May was around $255. So with that information in mind, you can understand and you could see for yourself that real estate has been moving, and we are really excited as a part of the real estate community that we were considered essential And we were able to sell, we were able to show our buyers properties, we were able to help our sellers get their homes on the market to move the home ownership forward as well as to keep the economy moving. So it's really been a blessing for many of us in this field to be considered essential. So you may say to yourself, well, why are there so many buyers that makes this a seller market? Well, the number one reason that there's so many buyers in the market is the interest rate. You've heard about it. You've seen it in the news. You've seen some local information. You've talked to your friends. The interest rates have been historically low. They've been running between 3 and 4%. And to my understanding, I've been in business only about 20 years, but those types of interest rates have not been seen for over 30 years. Because of that interest rates, buyers are taking advantage of the low interest rate. So they're getting out there and they're purchasing homes. The second reason why there's so many buyers is that unemployment is low. Many of us have moved to work from home. Many have had altered work schedules, or just a variety of things have been going on, but unemployment is still low. I just spoke with 2 individuals last week who were laid off or furloughed during COVID-19 and have landed positions. One got a $20,000 raise. So employment is still moving. Folks are getting jobs. Folks are getting raises and increases. And so it's giving the buyer community a sense of comfort to move forward and purchase a home. The number 3 reason why there are so many buyers is because prices are rising slowly. Some of you might recall there was a period of time where prices were bumping $5,000, $10,000 every couple of weeks. The prices here in the Maryland area, they've been pretty stable. They're rising, but they're rising slowly. And that gives buyers the confidence to get out there and purchase a home. So that is what we would call the top 3 reasons why there's so many buyers on the market today. I'm going to take a quick moment and see if we have any questions, Alexa.
Yes, we do. One question that came in, Gersha, was, is it true that vacant homes are selling faster than occupied homes with respect to COVID and distancing?
Couple of reasons why it seems that way. When a home is vacant, pre-COVID or not, it's easier to make an appointment. So when a home is on the market, we have to schedule an appointment to show it. When a home is vacant, those appointments come back right away. Confirmed, confirmed, confirmed. When a home is occupied, the sellers must approve that appointment. They have to look at their schedule, who's at the house, when they could leave, when they may be able to move the pets. So oftentimes it's not a quick confirmation. And if you're working with the buyer, as oftentimes I work with buyers and sellers, if I'm working with a buyer and they've told me they'd like to take a look at 4 homes, the appointments that we get to nail down the quickest tend to rise to the top. And it's just a matter of being able to confirm those vacant appointments quicker. It doesn't mean that the house is going to sell faster. It just means that the buyer can get in typically quicker. So I answered the question.
We can ask one more right now. Yes. Does Baltimore City still have dollar days for vacant row homes?
Those have not been officially relaunched again. I do remember those, and I'm sure folks do too. And if the audience isn't clear, that was a period of time in which Baltimore City sold vacant homes for $1. There were stipulations around purchasing those homes. The hopes was that the buyer would occupy it, buy it, renovate it, occupy it, fill up the block. And so there's been a lot of conversations about that resurging again and coming back. Any other questions, Alexa?
One more came through. Are the transactions closed during COVID-19 due to bankruptcy?
Well, what I will say is we don't know that a transaction or a property is being sold because a seller filed for bankruptcy. What we know is the house is on the market. Now, a house could be listed as a standard sale It could be listed as a foreclosure or an REO, and that seller may have filed for bankruptcy, and that would have been months ago, because it does take many, many months for a home to hit the market when the seller foreclosed on the property. And then the third kind of these are distressed properties. The third kind of property, or second kind of property that's a distressed property, is a short sale. So there may have been homes that have settled during COVID-19 that were listed as short sales, but those sellers began that process before COVID-19. It takes months for a seller who needs to sell their home for less than is owed on the mortgage. That's what a short sale is. For a seller to move forward to sell their home as a short sale, they have to take quite a few steps with their lending institution to walk through the process, provide the documentation, and then get approved to list their home as a short sale. And then once it's listed as a short sale, it could take months. I have a client right now, we're in day 85 of being under contract, waiting for the bank to approve. It's my buyer, waiting for the bank to approve the offer we submitted 85 days ago. So hopefully that gives you a sense that aside from a standard sale, the sales that somebody who may have filed for bankruptcy takes a number of months before it hits the market. So I'm not sure that we would have seen those properties March, April, and May.
Thank you, Gersha. And please, you all can continue to ask your questions in the chat box and we will answer them throughout, but please continue.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for those questions. Those are great questions. So for our buyers, we did tell you we would talk a little bit about down payment and closing cost assistance programs. These are programs that help buyers who may be short on cash for their down payment, which could run anywhere from 3% to 5%. They may not have all the cash that's required for their down payment, so they may need some assistance with that. And there are programs in place. Those of you who've purchased before, you know that there's also closing cost. Or if you're a buyer and you've already been pre-approved for a mortgage, your lender told you this is what you're going to need for your down payment, and this is what you're going to need for closing cost. And it could run around 3 to 6% for the closing cost. So there are some programs in place, and the Maryland Mortgage Program, and you can Google them, the Maryland Mortgage Program is in place to help buyers on their road to home ownership. And on here, I'm not going to touch on each of these. I'm going to highlight one of these programs. There are many, many programs. Some you may know individuals that work, let's say for Johns Hopkins, that work for LifeBridge, that live in Montgomery County. They're all those programs. But the one I want to focus in on is the Maryland Smart Buy 2.0 program. And it's 2.0 because it has been updated and revised. So if you've heard about it before, it's changed. This particular program allows buyers who have student loans the ability to eliminate up to $40,000 in student loans. There are criteria to be eligible for the program, but when you leave that closing table and you have the keys to your home, you have eliminated your student loan if it was $40,000 or less. I'm excited to be able to share that because as Towson University is one of the premier universities in our area that graduate teachers, we want you to know that there are programs out here to help you eliminate those student loans. Whether you're a recent grad or you've been around for a while, you've been chipping away at that loan, but you still want to eliminate it, there might be an opportunity for you to take advantage of that when you purchase a home. So Smart Buy 2.0 is the program through the Maryland Mortgage Program that allows you to eliminate up to $40,000 in student loan. Isn't that like awesome? Any questions about down payment and closing cost assistance program? There are many more. I have another document if you're interested in seeing what they may be. Typically, we work very closely with our lender partners so that they can qualify you for the different down payment and closing cost assistance programs that you might be able to qualify for. And I also want to just take this moment to dispel some of what you're hearing in the news. I know that very early on during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, you heard that some of the lenders had increased the down payment requirements to 20%. And some of us haven't seen 20% in years. Well, that did happen, but the same lender still had other programs available in which the buyer would be able to put 3% down, 3.5%, which is an FHA loan for most lenders. 3.5% of the purchase price is typically what a buyer who's purchasing a home with an FHA loan would need for a down payment. So as you can see, that could be very affordable for our buyers today. And it's going to be really important to have conversations about your particular situation, your credit score, your cash on hand, your debt to income ratio, what communities, what areas you're interested in purchasing, what programs, just like you see here, that you might be eligible for. So all of those conversations are really important to have. And you're going to see a link in the chat, and we're going to provide it for you as well. You can schedule a COVID call. It's a 30-minute call, no obligation. We can have a conversation about your particular situation to see, are you ready to buy? If you're not, what could you do to get yourself in a position to take advantage maybe of some of the closing cost assistance programs, but absolutely the low interest rates that we have today. Any questions? I'm going to take a pause right there.
All right, we did receive another question. It is a multiple part one. And it said, how do you help buyers who are COVID cautious and concerned about viewing properties during these times? Okay. How can you reassure them that it's okay to enter homes?
Okay. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the safety precautions that we take as realtors. So we have specific protocols that we as realtors take when we are working with buyers to take them into properties. We are masked, we are gloved, we use sanitizers. I am not able to 100% assure anybody that they would not be exposed to COVID, just as if we were to go to a grocery store or some other settings. So it's really up to the buyer to be comfortable to get into the home. But we do have some things in place that have started since COVID-19, and you will see that very often as you're looking online for homes today. In addition to photos, which in Maryland, we're able to put up to about 100 pictures online, video has almost become the standard so that buyers can get the sense of, as soon as they walk into the door, you make a right, there's the dining room, you make a left, there's a living room. You get much more of a feel of touring the home as though you were walking through it. So what that has helped us as buyer realtors do is reduce the number of homes that we're taking buyers into. Because aside from the pictures that they have an opportunity to see, the remarks that are written about the properties, I reach out to realtors, the listing agent, anytime I have a buyer who may have a question about a property, if the information that's provided isn't clear about the heating system, about the HOA, any of those things, we reach out and get as much information as possible before we actually go into the property. So what we are doing is we're reducing the likelihood that you'll be going into some properties that may or may not have COVID, but you're reducing your exposure by reducing the number of tours. So we can't assure you 100% that you would not be exposed going into a property, but I have been actively working since COVID, and I take the precautions as I enter into properties, and we do the same for our buyer clients. We open the front door, we open the pantry door, we open every door that there is. You're not touching it. You're not touching any surfaces when we enter the property. And then shortly, I'm going to tell you what the sellers are doing to give you a level of confidence that the house is as COVID-free as possible. Great question. Great question.
And you can continue on, Gersha.
Awesome. So what are sellers' fears in the market right now? As you know, this is usually the busy season. This is usually when real estate kicks off around April, May. But just like many, many things in life, we've had a lot of delays. And so real estate has had a little bit of a delay as well because sellers have been fearful about putting their homes on the market. One of the fears that many sellers have if they have pets is, what do I do with my pet? Doggy daycares have been closed. Some pet or dog parks or pet parks have been closed. So the normal suggestions about, hey, take the dog out for a walk, the dog is going to be gone all day to a doggy daycare, those kinds of things are not in place as frequently as they were pre-COVID. So that is one of the fears of sellers is, how do I handle the whole pet situation? We know that many, many students are learning online and they're home. School isn't over yet for many jurisdictions in terms of high school under. So children are still at home and they're still learning. So sellers are wondering, what do I do? My student needs to log on at 1 o'clock. My student needs to log on at 12. What do I do when somebody might need to see the home? So that is a legitimate fear, and that is something that we are considering when we make appointments as realtors. It's something we're considering as we continue to be flexible with our sellers. Whether you represent a seller as a realtor, they'll call me, oh my gosh, I have an appointment, the kids need to be on. Don't worry. I call the buyer's agent and I say, hey, right now their kids need to be online from this time to this time. Can you come at another time, before or after? So we're all working together for that end result. And we know what that is. The end result is to connect the buyers with the sellers so that the seller can sell their home and the buyer can buy their home. Sanitizing. Sanitizing is key for both of our sellers to protect their family that live in the home, as well as to protect the buyers that will be coming in. So when we work with sellers who are going to get their homes on the market, we give them the same advice the CDC has been giving all of us as we continue to maneuver through COVID-19. And that's going to be to wipe down surfaces. And surfaces are being wiped down. Many of the procedures that sellers did prior to COVID-19, they've just ramped them up. They're sanitizing in between showings. They're sanitizing every day. They're reducing the likelihood that even I have to open doors, because when we get to the property, the closet doors are open, the lights are on, we don't have to touch their light switches. So lots of advice is being given to my seller clients as they move to put their homes on the market so that they could be comfortable that they are not exposing buyers to any potential COVID-related viruses, as well as that buyers aren't coming into their homes. It's hands off. Please don't touch any of the surfaces so that we can get through the property, take a look at everything, and make the best decision about purchasing a home. Another thing that's been kind of a wrench in the process for some of our sellers is, in the past, when sellers sold homes, they have an apartment, they go to the local coffee shop, they'd go to the local restaurant, and they'd kind of hang out or camp out for the day or an hour or two. They would even go visit a friend. They would even go visit a neighbor during a showing. But we all know that that's changed. There are not as many friends and relatives that we can visit anymore while our house is being sold. And we as buyer's agent know that, we know that as well. And so based on all of these information, all of this fear, we're working together to make sure that the sellers have the maximum number of showings that can possibly happen around their pets, around the students who have to do at-home learning, around the safety precautions, as well as around the fact that there's so many businesses that don't allow us to just pop in anymore as we used to in the past. So we are aware of some of the fears that the sellers have in terms of, how do I move forward to sell my home? And as a seller's agent, we work with you to alleviate those fears. Not everybody has those same situations, but depending on what yours might be, we work with you to come up with some ideas of how that can best be addressed. There are even some periods of time. I have a seller whose dad was ill, and we decided to just do a blitz, a 2-day period of time where there were just showings. She took dad out. and it was showings. One of the things we're able to do in Maryland is we're able to list homes as coming soon. So they haven't hit the market yet. We get an opportunity to allow our colleagues to know it's about to hit the market. And then when it does, we oftentimes will have instructions. And so realtors will know, hey, I can bring my buyers on Saturday. There's going to be a window from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. where appointments will be scheduled so that you can come in. The seller is comfortable. They're not in the home. Even agents are present to help facilitate the process to make sure there are no overlapping tours during the same time, making sure folks are abiding by all of the CDC suggested regulations around being very cautious and conscientious during COVID-19. So there are 3 top reasons why sellers should sell now despite COVID-19 and despite social distancing. Once again, those interest rates, they are expected to remain low. I don't have a crystal ball. You can ask many economists, many loan officers. We all wish we knew when they were going to spike again. We don't. But what we can look at is the history. So since the interest rates, maybe the third, fourth quarter of 2019, reduced to between 3 and 4%, it's been pretty stable. So it is expected to remain low. And that is the number one reason why sellers should sell down. Another reason is if you have a starter home, there are lots of buyers who are interested in purchasing those. And you might say to yourself, well, what's a starter home? A starter home could be a 1 to 2 bedroom condominium. You might be ready to move on to a larger home. That would be a great home for somebody who's looking to buy for the first time. Another type of starter home could be a townhouse that has 2 or maybe 3 bedrooms. You've lived in that home for some time. It did you well for that period of your life, but now you're ready to move on to something that's a little bigger. There are buyers here today that are looking for those starter homes. So if you're in the category that you have a starter home, this is an awesome time to sell now. And then the last one, we talked about this before, but inventory is low. What does that mean? I have been taking buyers out pre-COVID, and then it really picked up around COVID. We still are in a situation where multiple offers are occurring. And what does that mean? That means that when a seller puts their home on the market, typically in the first couple days, many buyers are looking at that home and they're going to submit an offer. When they submit an offer, you as the seller don't just get 1. You may get 3. You may get 5. I've competed with 8 offers when I wrote an offer for a buyer of mine. So multiple offers mean that the seller will receive the best and highest offer that a buyer can submit. And they have choices. Will I take offer 1, 2, or 3? And sometimes there are many more. They're working with their seller realtor. That realtor will give them advice. They're going to show them the pros and the cons of every offer because it's not always about price. But the seller will understand how the different offers will benefit them, and with the advice of their realtor, they're going to make the best decision for themselves and for their families. So that's one of the things we're seeing with the low inventory are multiple offers. Any questions, Alexa?
Yes, we just had one come in. Can you please explain ground rent versus fee simple?
Okay, that is a question that we do get a lot. And it's in Baltimore City, Baltimore County. I've sold county properties that have ground rent. Ground rent is when the property that sits on the land, the property is owned by the seller, but the land is owned by someone else. That's when we have ground rent. Fee simple is when the land and the improvement on the land, which is the house, is owned by the same person. When a home is listed, you might notice there will be a little section that will say fee simple or ground rent. So as a seller's agent, when we list a property, we disclose that up front, that it's ground rent or fee simple. And thankfully, about 4 years ago, a law was put into place in which during the time when you purchase a home now, you can redeem the ground rent. So just to give you an example, ground rent might be $180 a year. You pay $90 twice a year. It's not a really big figure. You may pay $45 twice a year. So your ground rent might be $90 a year. They're not really, really large figures. And so there is a formula. Our title companies work with us to calculate that. And when you purchase the home, you may choose to redeem the ground so that you are now in a situation where your property is fee simple. You as the owner own the ground and the improvement on the ground, which is the house. So we can look up properties and let you know if they are fee simple or ground rent. And if they are, we can tell you how much that ground rent might be. And the payments are usually twice a year, pretty small amount, somewhere between $25 and maybe $110 twice a year. So they're not significant at all, but you can choose to redeem that ground when you move forward to purchase your property. Any other questions?
And we do not have any right now, so you're good to continue.
All righty. Well, thank you again. And that's a great question because a lot of buyers assume that ground rent is only in Baltimore City, but it is in the county and some of the surrounding counties as well. All righty. So sellers, and I answered or addressed a little bit of this earlier, but sellers are constantly wondering, what do I do? And how are you going to help me sell my home during social distancing? So we do have these strict protocols, appointments only. Nobody's just going to show up at your house. Under normal circumstances, nobody just shows up at your house. But with social distancing, we are very, very cognizant of appointments. And it happened to me about 2 weeks ago. It was raining. I started in Baltimore County showing a home, ended up in Hartford County, and we ran late. So when we got to the property with my buyers, there was another buyer waiting in a car. And then the agent pulled up and she asked me, hey, what time is your appointment? And I said, 2 o'clock. And it was 2:30. And she said, well, I have a 2:45. And I said, okay, you can go ahead, because I was late. And it happens just for a variety of reasons. So as real estate professionals, we're very cognizant about appointments. It was an occupied property. We knew that the seller had left to allow for the appointments. So we work with each other, we cooperate, we're respectful of each other's time, and we move forward to make sure that our buyers, and my buyers, they were able to see the property. We just stayed in the car a little longer until the other party came out. So appointments are critical during this time, and that realtors respect each other if we're running late, if we're running early, and that we respect the sellers if we're running late or we're running early. So we do have procedures in places. We have apps that we use. We have a way to reach out to the sellers sometimes, and sometimes to their agents, just to let them know what's going on. So that's in place. 3 people only. You may have heard of this. In real estate right now, only the decision makers are asked to come out into a property. In the past, you may have had a buyer with their mom and an aunt. Today, we're asking for 3 people only, and that includes the realtor. So you may have the realtor, the buyer, and mom, or you may have the realtor and a couple. One of the other things that we're asking is no children. And what does that mean? It means that buyers need to make some arrangements so that their children are not accompanying them to the showings. You know how hard it is to keep kids off of furniture, to keep kids from touching other people's belonging, and don't let them go into a house with toys. It is so hard to prevent the buyer children from homing in on those toys and just wanting to run over there. So we're asking that no children come to the showings, and we're asking that only the decision makers come out when we're doing tours. And the last piece is we're following those CDC guidelines as well. We're wearing masks, we're wearing gloves, we're using sanitizers, we're using wipes. We're opening all the doors for all of our clients, whether it's a pantry door, whether it's a cabinet door, whether it's a closet door, whether it's the slider to go out to the backyard. So we as realtors are minimizing our clients touching surfaces when they enter a property. So as a seller, You want to be confident that the realtors, we've had lots of training, we have had lots of team meetings with the brokerages that we work for. We get information from the biggest governing body, which is the National Association of Realtors, on down to our local boards about what we can and cannot do. And it continues to evolve. So the information we had 2 weeks ago, it's changed. And we have to constantly stay on top of what we can do. So we are abiding by very strict protocols when it comes to showing properties to buyers. Any questions, Alexa?
We had one come in. Is it a good time to get a second home or investment property?
Good question. Good question. So I'll address investment properties first. If you were looking to purchase an investment property, you may be buying it cash, or you might be using a loan. If you're using a loan, great time. Interest rates are low. Same thing applies to you. Typically, as you may know, investors have to put more money down. However, the interest rates are low. So I would say yes if you are using a loan. If you're using cash to purchase an investment property, so you're going to buy it cash, could be some different scenarios. You may be buying it cash, and then you're going to use some other funds to make improvements if it needs improvement. There are even properties on the market today, and I'm seeing them on the multiple list, that have tenants in them already. And the tenants are in a lease, and the lease isn't up for 6 months or a year. If you're an investor and you're looking for a property to buy that's already tenant occupied, that's an option too in this market. So you may see that as well as one of the ways in which you may want to move forward to buy your investment property. There are lots of ways to finance investment properties. So if you'd love to talk a little bit more about if it's a right time for you, definitely schedule an opportunity to talk with us, and we can see what your scenario is like. Second homes, it really depends on where you're going to purchase those. Most people that I hear of that are going to buy a second home tends to be more of a vacation home. So if you're looking in Maryland, because I can really only speak to Maryland real estate, if you're looking to purchase a second home, let's say in Deep Creek or in the Ocean City area or somewhere else that would give you an opportunity for vacationing or getting away to a second home or living in a different type of home that you live in on a regular basis, then we want to take a look at those. There are financing options for you as a second homeowner, and that's when we work with our lender partner to work with you for the best strategy. Do you want to take some funds out of your retirement account to make the purchase this time? Do you want to take some equity out of the current home you have because your interest rate might be in the, if you have a 5 in front of your interest rate or a 6 in front of your interest rate, you might want to look into refinancing. And when you refinance, you might find out, hey, I've just freed up a couple $100s a month. Maybe I will buy a second home. So I would say if some of those scenarios spark a question for you, this might be a good time for me, then yes, it may be a good time for you. So those are some of the considerations if you are looking to do a purchase of an investment property that you may plan to rent out, or if you're looking for a second home. And I think during COVID, a lot of folks begin to think about, wow, if I had another place to go during this stay-at-home order, it would have been nice. And so as a result of that, we have buyers now thinking about, maybe I'll get a second home for situations like this, and maybe I'll be able to make some money while I have that as well. That's a great question. Thanks, Alexa.
You are welcome. And I do have a couple more questions, but we are going to let Gersha continue with her presentation and hold them for the end of the session.
Yep, and I'm almost done. So a number of you may have followed Dave Ramsey and still follow him. So I just wanted to, in terms of some parting words, share a little bit of what he's communicating to the nation right now, is that equity is unlikely to decrease through 2020. And some sellers are fearful of that the properties they have now are going to plummet. The next thing that he'd like us to understand is, from what we can see, this real estate market isn't going to crash like it did between 2005 and 2010. And that's because there was a lot going on with the mortgage industry. Right now, we have far-reaching, far-sweeping other circumstances that are going on that are not only real estate related. So the crash that some people are sitting around waiting for may not happen. And then regardless of the neighborhood that you live in, I sell in all price ranges. There are buyers that are interested in the house that you have. So if you're thinking about selling, definitely schedule a call with us. Let us show you what the homes that are near you, within a mile from you, have sold for, what they're on the market for, the condition of the homes that are on the market. So you have all the information you have to make the best decision that you can about selling during social distancing or purchasing a home during social distancing. And I just want you guys to know you can connect with us on Facebook at Porter Premier Homes, on LinkedIn, Gersha Porter. I'd love to connect with all of my Towson alumni. And I'm also on Instagram at Realtor Gersha. Let's schedule your COVID call today. There's going to be a link that's going to come out with the video for those of you who've registered. It's also in the chat if you'd like to talk. I have 30 minutes set aside for all of my fellow Towson alumni or anybody else who hopped on this webinar today. You can also just send me an email at hello@porterpremierhomes.com, and my telephone is 443-744-0206. And I'm going to tell you, it's been a pleasure working in the Maryland area. I've had the blessing of helping a lot of Towson alumni purchase homes as well as sell homes. And I am actually now on some second generation Towson alumni. I have some friends whose kids have gone to Towson University. I'm working actively with a Baltimore County teacher now who's a Towson grad, and she's my friend's daughter, and she is moving forward to purchase her first home. So excited to continue to be of service to the Towson University community. And I'm gonna now go ahead, Alexa, and let you let me know if you have any other questions.
Yes. Is it better to show a vacant house with furniture or without it? Or do you recommend renting a storage locker to hold the furniture?
Okay, so I think I'll answer that two ways. If the house is already vacant, you've moved away and your home is vacant, and you took all of the furniture because you needed it at your next home. One of the things that I like to oftentimes recommend is staging. I have partnerships with a stager, and what they will do is traditionally stage the major portions of the house: living room, dining room, kitchen, and the master bedroom, and they throw some things in the bathroom. What staging allows the buyer to do is envision themselves in the property without all the personal belongings of the seller. And as you know, we all have our own taste in furniture and decoration. So when you see a staged property, it's very minimalist. There's not a lot of knickknacks. There's not a lot of decoration. But what it allows you to do is really get a feel for the sofa. It gives you a feel for, okay, this is a queen size bed in this bedroom. I have one, 2 nightstands, it's going to fit well. So if you are selling a home, you've had to move your furniture out because you've taken it to your new home, one of the considerations is to stage it. It also looks amazing online because a bunch of empty rooms really doesn't grab a buyer's attention. And 90% of all buyers, they start their search online. They're looking on the apps, they're looking online, and they're going to be grabbed by a well-staged home or a well-decorated home that lets them see, hey, this kitchen is really nice. Look at those light fixtures. Wow, they have a sofa and 2 end chairs. Yep, I have those same pieces. I think this living room will work well with me. So that's what I would recommend if you have a vacant home. I think the question about a storage space is sometimes the complementary recommendation when you're going to sell your home and you just have a lot of things, because the less items in a room, the bigger the room looks. So we live differently than we need to have our homes show when we're selling it. So I've worked with sellers where we give them the advice, and I bring my stager in. Some of it is my advice, but I bring the pro in, and they will take a look and give you some recommendations of items that, yes, you may be able to put into storage. If you have a home, I was at a seller's home yesterday, we're preparing it to list. she has a 2-car garage, and what we're going to do, because she's already moved out, we're going to use the garage. So although it's great for a buyer to see, yep, this is an amazing 2-car garage, it's also a very economical way for a seller to store the items that they no longer will have in the home during the showing. So it takes time. Somebody asked me yesterday, oh, do you think it's going to be ready in a week? Most sellers will say, oh, I'll be good in a week. It takes a while because you've accumulated so much, oftentimes in 10, 15, 20 years living in a home. It's happened to me. I've moved, I've sold homes, and whew, we have more than we think we do. So it takes time because life is going on. You're working, you're caring for children, you're caring for parents. And so you're, trying to find some time to declutter. So decluttering is key. It may involve taking some of your items to a storage facility or using a garage. And in other times, it's just a matter of making it look as neat as possible so that the buyer can have a view of themselves living in the same property. That's a great question.
All right, we have an additional question. Just like any professionals, I know there are good realtors and better realtors. What should I look for in a realtor as a buyer, and how does experience serve those of us looking for a better realtor?
Okay. Tell me the first part again. The first part of the question.
Sorry, my links are jumping around.
Okay.
What should I look for? What should I look for in a realtor as a buyer?
Got it. Okay. I would say when you're looking for a realtor and you're a buyer, you want to look for a realtor who is as straightforward with you as possible, giving you all the information they can when they can. A realtor who will go the extra mile and do some research. We can't be experts in everything. So there are some communities that we may not know all the information on. So I think a realtor who will do the research for you and circle back, a realtor who is knowledgeable about the down payment assistance, the closing cost programs, some of the nuances when there might be ground rent. So having a realtor who has had some experiences in helping buyers secure properties for themselves, they should be able to give you some examples. One of the things that I like to do, and it's out there on websites, but I am absolutely comfortable in giving my buyers, some of my buyers to call and talk to as references. I do a lot of posting testimonials on my socials, but I have many buyers who have raised their hands and they're comfortable giving references. So I would say check some references when you can. Ask the agent much about how they could give you as much information as possible. Another key piece, I believe, is being able to communicate with you. I text a lot. In real estate, we really need to email a lot of our formal communication. So being able to see that they are reaching out to you via email. So that communication is key. Talking on the phone is key. Everything cannot be explained or communicated in a text or an email. So I'll get a text, hey, say, hey, do you have 20 minutes to talk? Or can we talk at 5:15? Or what time do you get off? So I think a realtor that makes themselves available during your transaction, because that's when you have many, many questions, many scenarios. A realtor who's open to some of the other individuals that might be involved in your transaction, be it a partner, be it a parent, be it somebody that's your trusted advisor, and bringing them in. I think a realtor who's comfortable with those parties as well is a good sign that you have a good realtor. I can go on and on about the realtor. The second part of the question was something about experience, right?
Yes, it was about how does experience serve those of us looking for a better realtor?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, experience comes into play when there's a variety of scenarios. There is no two transactions that are the same. Why? Because we have different people involved as buyers, as sellers, title companies, lenders, home inspectors, appraisers. Those are just some of the individuals that are involved in a real estate transaction. And I have never had the same 5 people. because every buyer and every seller is already a different and unique person. So a realtor who has gone through many, many transactions have probably dealt with a variety of communication styles, a variety of personalities, a variety of types and styles of homes, condos, townhomes, HOAs, um, front fee. A lot of realtors who may not have sold in a community that is less than 10 years old may not know what a front fee is. Water view property. There's just, based on your experiences, you begin to learn more and more. I am a forever student, so I'm hopping on webinars. We have sales meetings once a month. All of those training and learning opportunities help a realtor bring that to you when they work with you on your particular transaction. So the longer you're in the business and the more transactions you do, because there are some realtors who've been in the business 5 years, they've done lots and lots of transactions. And those transactions are what equip you to be more qualified and experienced to help the next buyer and more comfortable with it. So I think that's how experience can help you when you make a selection about the next realtor you work with to help you buy or sell your home.
Great. This is a great question. Should we actually begin looking online on apps, as you said before, getting together with a realtor or agent? For example, would you recommend just trusting in the realtor to find some options based on our specs or doing research ahead of time?
I am a firm believer in doing research ahead of time. We are in the information age. When I start working with buyers, I say, how many apps do you have on your phone? And one of the first things I tell them is, you can keep one of those in mind because most buyers already are looking for a home before they connect with a realtor and they get alerts, alerts, alerts. It just gets overwhelming because there's so much information. But when I start to work with a buyer, we have a consultation where we nail down the top requirements that they're looking for in their home. And I'll say, have you seen any homes that meet your requirements? We'll look those homes up right away, right online. I'll let them know the status. It happens sometimes that buyers will send me homes, oh, I found the perfect home. What happens in the multiple list system, there are notes that are out there for the public to see, and then there are notes for us as realtors to see. So I always say, let me take a look at it. I'll look in the MLS and there's going to be information for us. It might say mold in the basement. It might say this is a short sale, and you didn't see that because it's not marketed to buyers that way. It's not disclosed to buyers that way. And that's really why you need a realtor, because there's information that's communicated to us so that we, as we represent our buyers, we move forward with giving them as much information as they can to make the best possible decision. I just had a conversation with a buyer of mine the other day, and we were looking together on the MLS, and they saw a home. It looked amazing, but as you looked at the side of it, I noticed the top of the gas station. They didn't see it. I said, look back at picture 32. Let's look again. Let's zoom in. There it was, the gas station. So although the property looked appealing in terms of the inside, the backyard, the front yard, they have two small children, and it was next to a gas station, and it got off. They said, nope, take it off the list, take it off the list. So that prevented us from going over to a property that would not have met their need, not so much the price, the layout, the features of the property, but where it was located next to a gas station. So I think that apps are amazing. Most of the time, if you're not familiar with the community, I'm going to recommend drive by it, take a look, see where it's located. Because when we work with sellers and we work to sell properties as realtors, we're going to show you the best features of the property. And if you drive by the property, you will then notice, oh, it's next to a gas station, or oh, it's 2 blocks down from something else that might not be desirable for you, and only you can make that decision. Yep. So apps are good and research is good ahead of time, but then we work with you with the app as well as the information that's on the multiple list to let us give you as much as you can, much information as you can to make the best decision for you and your family.
And we have one final question. How does Gersha's experience serve those looking for a better realtor?
So I'd say Gersha's experience would serve buyers and or sellers because I have worked in the Baltimore metropolitan area. I'll say that. I have a house now under contract in Abingdon. So, one is I am open to working and serving my clients no matter where they may live in terms of where they want to buy or where they want to sell. So, that is one of the things about working with Gersha as a realtor. Another plus about working with Gersha as a realtor is I have a network, and it's been a huge plus in terms of my business, is that the network of individuals that I've been able to work with over the years, they tell their friends and their other friends. So when I am looking to work with a buyer or a seller, I'm pretty confident that there's somebody who could tell them I did a great job for them. And if I didn't do 100% great job, there might have been a reason why. They can explain it to them. I'm happy to address it as well. I give recommendations for home warranties. There's no perfect home, and home warranties help you with some of those unplanned home repairs that come up after you've purchased a home. It helps sellers when their homes are on the market. So all of the resources that I've become exposed to over the years of working in real estate and all of the new resources, the new technology, I work real hard to stay abreast. I love learning more. I hop on webinars all the time. I network with colleagues. I have colleagues that I cheer them on. I see them doing things. I ask them questions. So I think the student in me, the forever learner in me, allows me to be a better realtor for both my buyers and my seller clients.
All right. Make sure my screen is back
If we missed
up.
anything, we'll make sure to get back to you guys and give that to you.
And this concludes our webinar on real estate in a time of social distancing. Thank you, Gersha, so much for leading today's presentation. The recorded session will be available in the coming weeks on social media channels and will be emailed to all participants along with Gersha's contact information and resource links that she mentioned in today's presentation. Make sure you follow the TU Alumni Association on social media and on our alumni community, Tiger Connect. These details are posted on your screen. We hope you can join us for another one of our live events and webinars. You can learn more about our upcoming events at alumni.towson.edu. Next Thursday, we are hosting a webinar on investment planning strategies with TU alumnus Jason Eldison, a private wealth advisor and executive director at Vierdens Capital Advisors. Thank you, and we hope to see you next time.